So, I know this guy, we used to play Dead music together, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I'll check it out, we'll see. I decided to give it a try. We went up to Chicago where they were based, played one show with them, and they're like, when can you start?
Wow,
nice.
That's amazing.
Nice.
If we're doing something from the 60s and then doing something from the late 80s, his drums sound very different. And conversely, and you can attest to this as well, Ray, the way the drums sound is going to affect the way I play them.
Of course, yeah.
In one region, we'll see the same people a whole tour, but we also have people that we'll see in California this weekend, and we'll see them in New York the next weekend. And then we just did our festival in Ohio, and we had people from, I think, 33 states come to our festival in Ohio. So, the Deadheads travel, man. Whether it's to go see Dead & Company or us or J-Rad or anybody, Deadheads like to move around, man. They're the wandering tribe.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tribute Band Sessions. We have an amazing guest. We have Rob Koritz from Dark Star Orchestra.
The great Rob.
We are so excited to have you.
The great Rob is here.
Rob, he is actually here. I can't believe that he said yes to us, Ray.
He doesn't know us yet, so he might regret it. So
yeah.
This could be a very short interview.
Exactly. Click. Hello.
Good to see you, Rob.
Are you there? Yeah, we're just going to dive right in.
Yeah.
I need to know a little bit. I mean, I know about you. I know about the band, but I'd love to know a little bit about your music career. I know you've been with Dark Star for a long time, but, maybe just a little prior to that and then jumping into that.
Yeah, sure. From a young age, I always knew I was going to be a musician. That's just what I was going to do. I started out studying classical at the University of Arizona. 3 years into it, I quit because I realized being a symphonic percussionist wasn't going to be my bag. So I took some time off, came back to St. Louis where I live, and got my degree in jazz studies instead. So a nice 6-year program in between the two. And then, I was gigging in St. Louis. In the 90s, I was, like everybody else, in that original band trying to get a record deal. Ended up owing a record company a lot of money. You heard that story a million times. And, at the same time, I was doing weddings and jazz gigs, hotel gigs, anything you could think of. My book was full. But one of the things I was also doing, I'm a Grateful Dead fan, and I was playing Grateful Dead tunes in a local Dead band. Stopped doing that and was still gigging, and then it started a business doing team building workshops through drumming. I called the percussion discussion, and I was going out to corporate groups and stuff in schools during the day and still playing music at night, but not Grateful Dead music anymore. Long story short, the drummer I had been playing Grateful Dead music with in St. Louis found out about Dark Star. They needed a drummer. He was going for the gig, and while he was trying to get the gig, they ended up needing 2 drummers. So, I know this guy, we used to play Dead music together, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I'll check it out, we'll see. I decided to give it a try. We went up to Chicago where they were based, played one show with them, and they're like, when can you start?
Wow,
nice.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, it worked out, it was really serendipitous, and I thought it'd be good for a couple of years, we'll see what happens. My 10th day in the band, we had just kind of broken nationally. They had been a regional band up until then. Literally, my 10th day in the band, we're playing at the Fillmore in San Francisco, and I'm just like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
10 days ago, I was playing in the window on Del Mar Avenue in St. Louis, and now, I'm playing at the Fillmore. So I thought it would be a good run for a couple of years, and we could get something out of it. And it's been 26 years now.
Holy shit. That's crazy.
We had some rough times like everybody did in 2009, 2010 when the economy tanked. Our lead guitar player changed at one point. There was a little bit of an acclimation with the fans during that time. But, to be able to be out here doing it this long without sounding cocky, it means you're selling tickets.
Hey, man, you're making a living.
Yeah, I'm very, not getting rich, but I'm doing well. I think about a bunch of the guys, that I went to music school with who admittedly were way better musicians than me. Not necessarily drummers, but, guys who are just players. And, they all got day jobs and they're scrambling for gigs. And I've been nothing but a musician for 26 years, so I'm truly, truly blessed.
Absolutely. And you took on, or I should say, when they created this band, taking on the Grateful Dead, I mean, it's like the Beatles, it's like Pink Floyd, it's like bands that are so huge with that kind of following, to replicate the sound. How much time and energy goes into that?
Well, 26 years ago, a whole lot more than now because we've got it. But every single one of us, and really the only way a band like this works, every single one of us was huge students of the music coming into it.
Yeah. And that's how you got to approach, if you have to respect the music, you have to respect the instrumentation. I mean, if you want to do it properly, you have to be extremely meticulous on
Oh, very much.
I'm talking the tuning of the drums, the year of your drum set that you're using. It's of that. Yeah,
that's a great point.
Everything has to be perfect if you want to respect the art, the music.
And that's one of you just brought up a great one, being a drummer. Just on this last tour that we just got home from, 2 nights that we did in a row. We're not playing note for note by any means because it's all improvised. So, we're using the style, the arrangements, the tempos, the song list, and what have you. But what you're talking about, to be accurate and to make it right, the drum tuning, for example. Mickey Hart, who by and large I'm doing most of the time. Sometimes I get to do the Bill Kreutzmann parts when we do one drummer shows, but the way he tuned his drums, the way any of them did, changed over the years. So if we're doing something from the 60s and then doing something from the late 80s, his drums sound very different. And conversely, and you can attest to this as well, Ray, the way the drums sound is going to affect the way I play them.
Of course, yeah.
So that all of those things help all of us get into the mode we need to be in to really do the music justice, not only in general, but for that specific period of time.
Well done. Well stated.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even know that. When they come to the show, they don't know the behind the scenes of what goes into replicating the sound. It sounds, people go, it sounds like the record. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But for the musicians out there watching this, they're going to be like, that makes sense. I get that, and, it's really important.
With the Dead's music, again, it evolved and it changed so much. We're talking about 30 years worth of music there. When they were 19 and playing it, they're playing it markedly different than they are when they're 49. So there's a level of detail there,
And you have to speed up that evolvement of the song for the performance of what you guys are doing. It didn't take you 30 years. Yeah.
Exactly. Again, because we're all students of the music when we came in, so when I came in 25 years ago, I already knew the differences in the way he played at that point in his career and the way he played at that point in his career. And more importantly, how do I do that but still maintain my own musical identity? That's a huge part of it. And luckily with this band, it's 90% improvised. So, no offense to any other cover band, tribute band out there, but if I was in a band that was playing 4-minute songs and it's the same songs every set, I would have quit after 2 years.
Right.
But because we're improvising, and we're essentially still playing jazz in a rock idiom, but the fact that I'm able to improvise and communicate with my bandmates every night, it's still fresh. If I have to play that song 4 nights in a row, which we don't, it's still going to be fresh every night because we're improvising. It's going to be different than it was the night before.
And do you guys mix up your set list every show?
Yeah. Nowadays, about 30% of the time, we don't do an actual Grateful Dead show anymore. We'll just play Dead songs that we want to play, maybe play some stuff that they didn't play very often, be able to take a song they only played in the 60s and a song they only played in the 80s and meld them together. But the other 70% of the time, we're playing an actual Grateful Dead show in its entirety, setting up the instrumentation right, having the right musicians on stage, because there's some nights there's one drummer, there's some nights there's 2. There's some nights Lisa, our female vocalist, was in the band, then there's a period where she wasn't in the band, or there's Donna. So, it's, the way we're set up on the stage, the equipment we're using that night, the keyboards change a lot. A lot of my drum set, I have 8 different ways I have to set up my drum set, depending on what we're doing. And then when we're doing an actual Grateful Dead show, we'll listen to it that day, but we all listen separately because we're all listening for different things. I'll listen to the whole show. When Grateful Dead show is about 3 to 3.5 hours, I'll listen to what I need to listen to in about 45 minutes. And I'm just trying to get, hey, during this period, were they playing that with a halftime groove or a double time groove? Hey, is he using a lot more ride cymbal here? Hey, how did they transition from this song to that song? Hey, during the drum solo, what kind of textures were they using? Things like that. So I don't listen to a whole song. And conversely, the guitar player might want to hear what kind of improvisational devices he was using that day. Well, I don't care. So that's why we listen separately.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then when we get to Soundcheck, if there's anything we need to talk about that's unique to that night's performance, we'll talk about it at Soundcheck. Hey, did you guys hear that half step was halftime today, not double time like it usually is? Or this one, they didn't go back to the bridge. They went straight into the next song. We'll talk about that stuff at Soundcheck. And if we need to rehearse something, we'll run it at Soundcheck as well.
Here's a question. Like you said, a majority of the performance is improvised. Do you guys record your own shows? Like record your performances?
Yeah, everything.
Do you guys ever hear something that I would hope this happens, and I think you as well, how it turns into more of you and the band instead of a Grateful Dead, and then all of a sudden you're hearing it back and you're saying, that's original. We need to record that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't listen back to a whole lot of stuff anymore, partially because I get hypercritical about the performance, and, it happened, it's out there, you got to move on to the next one, right? But there's times when we'll be listening, and we might be in a bus listening to something that we played last night or the night before, and we'll just look at each other and go, wow, that was really good. I mean, we really got somewhere on that.
Exactly.
That was us.
Like no longer the tribute. It's no longer the tribute. It's more original.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd like to think, since we're improvising so much, it's like that all the time. Admittedly, just like any other band, though, there's also nights where we'll come off and go, that wasn't our best performance. Luckily, those are fewer and further between these days. We're working less, so we're actually a little more energized and a little more excited when we're on the road. So since we're working less, we're playing really well. We're really happy with the way we're playing right now, which is great.
And you say working less, so that's funny because I had a two-part question. And one is that I looked at your tour schedule, and it seems pretty busy.
And we're working less.
Wow, you're playing.
It's still busy.
It's still working.
Yeah, you're working. So if you were working, like, how many dates were you doing, and are you doing now? And then my second part of the question was, with, the extensive touring you guys do, how do you keep up that energy and the creativity, like night after night after night,
At our peak, back in 2008 to 2012 or so, or even earlier than that, I guess. So early 2000s, when we were still, quote unquote, making a name for ourselves, we were playing 160, 170 shows a year. We were also younger. I was in my 30s, not my 50s. But the busiest year we ever had, I was home for 100 days. I was on the road for 265. And then pre-pandemic, as we came into the pandemic, we were down to about 130 shows a year. Pandemic put a halt. We were lucky to play at all. And then we've made a conscious effort as we've gotten older. Every year we shave a couple more shows off of the schedule, and we're right where we want to be. We play 80 shows a year now. And if we can stay at 80 shows a year and keep filling the rooms, we can do this for a while, because we are a lot more energized, to get to your next question, because we're home more, The balance is way better.
80 is a lot of shows.
80 is still a good number. Yeah. It's still a good number. And then when we are on the road, to answer the second part of your question, like on this last one, our tour ended with 5 shows and 6 nights, and the last one was on a Sunday. And I won't lie, playing that Sunday night was hard. Playing 4 nights in a row is tough. I'm not a big fan of playing on Sundays. You put everything out there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or maybe Wednesday also. That's enough. Sunday should be off. But, how do we keep the energy up? I actually get more sleep on the road than I do at home. I got 2 children, so I don't get 8 hours of sleep at home. But,
And you guys travel in a bus together?
Yeah, we travel in a bus, and it's almost always 8 hours in my bunk on the bus, which is great. So, here's what I tell people, and you can totally attest to this, right? It's the hardest easy job in the world. I play a lot of golf on the road. That also helps keep me energized. I take my sticks and I play a lot, and mostly it's with people I meet on the course. I usually go by myself, and I meet strangers. Oh man, playing in a rock band on a bus, that's the greatest job in the world. You must be living the dream, I'm like, Yeah, well, it's the hardest easy job out there, and if you talk about living the dream, as soon as I leave here, I'm going back and taking an Uber to the laundromat. Not quite living the dream, but I am. I'm getting paid for it. So the golf helps me stay energized and fresh, just not sitting around. I can't sit around on a day off in a hotel room and just sit there. I think that would drain the energy right out of me. Some of the guys, it works for them, that would take the energy, suck the life right out of me just sitting around. So I get out to the golf course whenever I can on the road.
Got to get the sun. That definitely helps. Yeah. No, I hear you. You're right. You're right when it comes down to the hardest, greatest job. It's tons of fun. It's a blast, but there's elements of the job comes into it, and you got to stay focused, stay healthy, and
when you think about it, we get paid. Well, I don't know about your background, but I get paid to do what I studied for in the first place, what I love to do, and I make people happy while I'm doing it. So that is living the dream. But then I go 19 days without seeing my kids, and I miss my niece's wedding. There's just, that's the hard part of the easy job. That's why it's the hardest easy job.
Especially when kids are involved. It's a whole different element, whole different story.
Yeah. And a couple of us in the band, we're an older band, I'll be honest. I'm 56, and I'm the youngest guy in the band. One of the other guys is also 56. And the two of us have young children. We got late starts. We both have kids ranging from 8 to 14. A couple of the older guys in the band have grandkids. So missing out on that stuff too. That's the trade-off. But
it is part of the job.
Yeah, man. But I get to play music for a living.
Exactly, and that's the whole thing. And Mike doesn't have kids, but his wife has one son, so he understands being a kid. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be me.
Well, that's the other thing about
that would. Yeah, that's exactly.
That's us too. Let's be honest. Musicians live in a state of arrested development. God, we're all children. Yes.
Oh my God! Yeah, we were out this past weekend, and when Ray and we have another buddy he's a touring musician, that he's a sound engineer. But when the three of us go out, just the city should look out for these three crazies on the road, because it's like
we need adult supervision when the three of us hang out.
Yeah, we really do.
You need a road manager when you guys go out.
Exactly. It's like we haven't seen each other.
You were talking about taking the music seriously a second ago, Ray, and here's kind of how I knew we were doing it right. This was what affirmed it for me. Every living member of the Dead, and a few who have passed away since we started, they've all played with us. They've all come and sat in. And when they come and sit in, it's cool, kind of weird, kind of surreal. And, maybe, okay, they were being nice or whatever, they wanted to check it out. But the fact that they came back and did it again, and if when we play in San Francisco, if Bob Weir's home, he wants to come and play with us. Hey, we're playing at the Warfield. Hey, I'll come down for Soundcheck. I'll do some songs. The fact that all those cats approve of us, if you will, not only approve, but love to play with us.
Yeah.
Tells me we're doing something right.
Yeah, definitely. Cheers to that.
To me, and the career that you have, and the long career that the band has speaks for itself. But, do you guys travel? Like, I forget the schedule, but do you travel internationally as well?
Yeah, we do. Not a ton. Last year, let's see, in 22 and 24, we went to Europe. We'll go back in 26. So we go to Europe every other year. We've been to Japan once to play Fuji Rock. And then every year we do a destination event. We have our own down in Jamaica called Dark Star Orchestra's Jam in the Sand. We bring 2 or 3 bands with us, 4 nights on the beach at an all-inclusive. And we've done that every January. I'm looking at the posters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've done it for the last 13 years.
That's great, yeah. And, because I know that we've talked to some other bands, and what's big for them is the tribute cruises as well, those type of things as well. Do you guys participate in the cruise industry?
We've done a couple of the Jam Cruise, which is a big one in the Jam Band thing, but it's not a tribute thing. We haven't done, we kind of stay away from that. It's kind of weird. I don't want to say we don't want to be considered a tribute band, because we are. But again, so much of what we get to do is original because of the improv. So when it comes to like going out on a tribute cruise, A, I don't think we've ever been approached, and B, if we were, we probably wouldn't do it. It's just what we do. I kind of think of it more as performance art.
Yeah, and plus I think that you already are set up with such a big schedule that in reality, is it something you want to do? You know, it might take away from the other dates that you could fill that maybe are more meaningful to the band, to the audience that want to see you and stuff like that.
For sure, and you just brought up a good point, the audience. You know, we have a fan base who travels. So, you know, we'll see the same, not a ton, but in one region, we'll see the same people a whole tour, you know, but we also have people that we'll see in California this weekend, and we'll see them in New York the next weekend. And then we just did our festival in Ohio, and we had people from, I think, 33 states come to our festival in Ohio. So, you know, the Deadheads travel, man. Whether it's to go see Dead & Company or us or J-Rad or anybody, the Deadheads like to move around, man. They're the wandering tribe.
That's the beauty about the Deadheads, man. They stick. They cling, they stick, and they want to be a part of the music, you know, and that's a beautiful blessing because it's great to see familiar faces out there, and the fact that, you know, wow, they're supporting us, they're back, they're doing it, and that means that, I'm sure, gives you more energy, gives you more like, I'm performing for them, you know, not just for everybody, but for them, and that's a beautiful thing to see. You know, I'm glad to hear that.
I've made a ton of friends with fans in the band, you know. I mean, I had a fan of the band in my wedding that we became that good. A lot of the cats I golf with on the road are fans of the band. I mean, if I'm in DC, I'm going out to golf with this guy, you know. If I'm in Milwaukee, I'm going out to golf with this guy. At our festival, when we're done on stage, after the late night band's over, a couple of us are up in the campground with our friends who are there that are fans, sitting around their fire while they play music, you know? And this is another thing I'll say about the Grateful Dead fan base and the Jam Band fan base in general. They are an incredibly forgiving audience because the ones who are really into it know that it's cliche to say it this way, but that we're flying without a net, you know, and we're taking chances musically. And they don't always work. You know, but I've always said, you know, they're so forgiving because they know that we're out putting ourselves out on a limb for them. So, you know, somebody messes up the words or we have a band transition, sometimes they laugh and they cheer and yeah, as opposed to, boy, that band sucks, I'm never paying to see them again.
Right. That's a big thing that I think separates you, and that was something I was going to ask, like, you know, looking 10 feet away with your band, and because of the career that the band has had now, like, there's other bands that do Grateful Dead music and call it a tribute band, call it whatever. But in your eyes, what do you think separates your band from some of the other bands that you know are out there?
Well, first of all, I hate to use this word, the gimmick of recreating actual Grateful Dead shows in their entirety. You know, when some people do that a little bit now, but when we started and that was our hook, nobody had even thought about doing that yet. I don't want to say superior musicianship because there's good musicians in Dead bands all over the country. But it's a group of good players, you know, and that are really devoted to this music and very respectful of this music, that it would be a disservice on our part if we didn't play it with reverence. And I'm not putting anybody local Dead bands down anywhere because there's literally hundreds of them. In fact, on my podcast, I had a segment called There's a Grateful Dead cover band in every town. And I would interview somebody from Grateful Dead bands all over the country. And some of them have amazing players. Like here in St. Louis on Friday night, I could have gone and seen 3 different Grateful Dead bands if I had wanted to. There's hundreds of them out there. And I don't care how they're playing it. Some are doing it in a jazz way. Some are doing it in a hip-hop way now. The songbook is being interpreted so many different ways. As long as the music's being played, there you go, man. That's all that matters.
Just keeping the music alive. Yeah. Ray and I interviewed one of the guys from Get the Lead Out. And, you know, it's the same thing with Led Zeppelin bands out there. You know, so we asked him and he's like, listen, you know, we're not going to dress like Led Zeppelin. You know, we're here to make it sound like the record. Like, they're real big on making it sound like the record. So,
right. And I know a little bit about them. For a long time, we shared an agent. We don't anymore. And that's not easy music to do either. But again, like what I said earlier, I could never do that. because you want to make the song sound like the record, and that's really important to what you're doing, and that's what it's about, and I get that. But I don't want to have to play it that way every single night.
And that's what makes you guys unique,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, we have
that's what makes
over 500
you know,
songs to choose from,
Yeah.
you know?
just a few.
Yeah, so, you know, and some of them we might only play once a year. Some of them we haven't played in 3 years. Some of them we played 32 times last year. It just depends on the tune, you know?
Exactly.
Do you guys have to rehearse? Like if you pull a song from, you know, something you haven't played in a while, how does that work? Do you guys set up a rehearsal time? Do you do it at Soundcheck?
Yeah, Soundcheck. I mean, we all live in different cities, so it's setting up rehearsal time is logistically a nightmare and an expense.
Yeah.
Without sounding cocky, we don't really need it that way anymore. Everybody knows the songs well enough. If there's a song we haven't played, we'll tell ourselves before break, or that we haven't played in a long time, before we go on break, hey, when we come back, we're going to try New Potato Caboose, or what's a really hard song. Everybody go home and learn your parts. You know, everybody go home and brush up and be ready when we get back so that we can run it in 2, maybe 3 sound checks and have it ready to go to the stage.
That's the way to do it. I mean, seriously. Everybody has the knowledge, the year, the experience of learning the song. Now it's just going over it and no stress. Let's just rehearse it 2 or 3 times. And are we ready to put it on the set list tonight? Everybody cool? Okay, it's a 3rd song in the set list. Don't go. And that's it.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it works. Yeah.
So being in the industry, I have to ask an outside of the box question, which, because a lot of people that are going to watch this podcast or this episode, you know, are really curious to hear from somebody doing it, looking out and saying, what's your view on the tribute band scene and how it's changed over the years? Do you keep your eye on any of that stuff? Is that something, you know, you see? And, you know, we get different answers from different people. So for us, for Ray and myself, it's so interesting, just the different answers that we get.
I think in this day and age, it's unavoidable to not know what's going on out there because it's so big now. You know, we were at a new venue that we had never played in Charlotte the other night. Great, beautiful venue. It's pretty new. And I'm looking at their lineup, and they're having a tribute to Zeppelin, which is pretty common. But then I see one on there that's like a tribute to Heart and somebody else. Bands that you hadn't seen in the past that were being tributized isn't a word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure.
So it's bigger than it's ever been. Why? Let's be honest, guys. Most of these acts are getting older. They're either not with us anymore. They're not touring anymore. Some of them are touring, but they're kind of a shell of their former selves. And some of them are touring and crushing it still, you know, and they're still fantastic and worth it. So I think that's part of it, you know. I mean, a lot of these bands, like Fleetwood Mac doesn't tour anymore, and there's a couple of really good bands playing Fleetwood Mac's music traveling across the country, you know. People want to hear it live still, whether, you know. Now, I don't love the let's get dressed up, you know, and if there's a Guns N' Roses band, and I'm not putting them down as musicians. This is just not my thing.
Yeah.
If there's a Guns N' Roses band playing the music, that's great, but I don't need to see the guy with no shirt and a top hat and a fake wig. You know? That's not what it's about. It's not what it should be about. You know? It's not about what it looks like. It should be about what it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think I'm seeing more and more bands lose the costumes, believe it or not.
Good.
I'm seeing more and more. The more that I'm looking at the scene, I just see them now creating maybe 2 or 3 band tributes in one show.
Yeah, that's a lot of that. You're right.
Yeah, and replicating the music, but doing it really well. You know, and some even bring out some light shows with some screens for video montages or whatever. But it's really unique how I'm just seeing a little bit of a shift. Now, listen, there's a gazillion bands out there, so I'm not saying them all, but I do like seeing that because they're paying more attention to the music than they are, like you said, the hat and the wigs and stuff like that.
And then there's groups that do both. We have a thing here in St. Louis, this group of guys. One of the guys in the band does some tributes to a lot of amazing tributes, but they do the Pink Floyd thing. It's called El Monstero. They only do it once a year, like a 7-night run between Christmas and New Year's at the pageant here in St. Louis. And the production is beyond large. You know, they build satellite stages around the room, and it's incredible. And the music's great too, you know. And then he does another one called Celebration Day, which is a cool Zeppelin thing. He does a Stones one, I can't remember what they call that one, that are really good, you know, and those are bigger productions. And then you got smaller stuff here. I'm just going by St. Louis. We have another really cool thing, if you don't mind me sharing it with you. A friend of mine named Sean Kanan, who has a weekly residency at this little place called the Broadway Oyster Bar, great little bar in St. Louis. And he has a thing called the Voodoo Players. And every Wednesday, he's been doing this for almost 10 years now, and I play on quite a few of them. Every Wednesday, he does a different artist. And he hires the right local cats for that gig, you know, depending on what band he's doing that night. You know, so he's probably got a stable of 100 local musicians that he uses. And on Thursday, the gig's on Wednesday. So on Thursday, he'll throw out a playlist to the musicians that are going to be on it. On Tuesday night, we have a rehearsal, and on Wednesday, we do a gig. I've done with him, I play percussion on Paul Simon and Little Feat. I play drum set for him on Clapton and Dylan. The other night he did the Highwaymen. He was doing Waylon and Willie and Johnny and all that. Next week he might be doing Ween. I mean, he covers the gamut of it and packs the place and now he's doing some other shows in bigger rooms in St. Louis as well. Like the Last Waltz he did not too long ago in a 1,000-seater. So this guy and his group isn't devoted to just tribute of a band. They're devoted to a tribute to music.
On. Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah.
It could be Crosby, Stills, and Nash one week. It could be Prince the next week. And he just hires the right cats to play that music. And he's an amazing player. He plays it all. And it's something really, really cool. The Voodoo Players, look them up.
You know, that's something we have. It sounds like this guy made a quote one, and I think you're the guy, where I think, you know, and I'm not sure if it was you that said this to me through an email or maybe somebody else, but they said, you know, we like to be called an untribute band, you know.
I like that.
And I was like, that's pretty cool because, you know, it's not like, you know, we're doing the exact tribute, you know, we have a bunch of players that play the music of the band that we're playing. So we're not a tribute.
We're definitely an anomaly in the tribute band world, for sure, just because, because of the music that we play and the nature of the music that we play. But you were talking about the costume thing, and I mentioned that we went to the Fillmore my 10th day in the band back in 1999, and I shit you not, the local crew asked us, so like, when do you go change? Like, what are you talking about? Well, we figure the Jerry guy's going to put a pillow under his shirt, and when do you go put on your wigs and stuff? I'm like, dude, see this shorts and t-shirt that I just set up in? This is what you're going to get when I walk out on stage. Really? You know, they just expected that we were going to... Come on, man.
No. Then it becomes a gimmick.
Yeah.
It becomes too much of a Vegas act, you know, and you don't want that. Especially with you guys. Especially, it's about the music. And with the Grateful Dead, once again, it started out as a jam band. You know, like Santana, that started out as a jam band. You know, it's 9 to 17-minute songs. You know, and pointing across the stage, who solos next. And that, in a sense, it's not a tribute band. It's going back to the first questions. You're respecting the music with elements of your history of being a drummer and your guitarist player of history of being a guitar player and so on. You know, and that makes it, and I understand there's some tribute bands that you have to play the song like the way it's on the radio, you know, that 3.5-minute song. And that's, once again, like you said, that's not for you. That wouldn't work for you. You probably would take that 3.5-minute song and turn it into a jam tune.
That's kind of what the Voodoo Players do. If they're playing Crosby, Stills, and Nash, he still manages to find a way to turn it into a jam.
That's just musicianship at work.
Right.
Yeah.
Which works. That was what I was going to ask you, and you kind of answered it now, but, you know, whether there was any other memorable experiences you have throughout your long career in this band. There's so many, I'm sure.
So many, but what they all pretty much essentially boil down to is getting to play music, whether they're sitting in with us or I'm sitting in with them, getting to play music with some of the bands and some of them becoming friends with and having relationships with some of the bands that I looked up to and listened to and was really a fan of growing up. You know, I'm a huge Los Lobos fan, have been since before La Bamba. I mean, way back, first album, huge Los Lobos fan. Whenever we cross paths, I sit in with them on percussion. I never could have dreamed of being able to do that.
Now, I got to give you something with that. I grew up in East LA, right? And to this date, I have not had the chance to sit in with Lobos, man. And that's one of my, like what the fuck? Come on, I haven't been able to play with those guys.
I mean, I'll tell you, because you'll appreciate this. They came to our thing in Jamaica one year, and I'd sat in with them a bunch prior to that. I mean, I'm a huge, huge fan. And I played all 3 nights with them when they were with us in Jamaica. And Louis Perez, guitar player, percussionist, probably the quietest guy in the band. Without a doubt, the quietest guy when you hang. And he goes, Rob, as far as I'm concerned, you're a wolf.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome.
I'm like, wow. So anytime I'm around, just come and play. So stuff like that. Double drumming with Richie Hayward. Richie was one of my idols growing up and loved Little Feat. And he sat in with us one night and we're doing a pretty syncopated song. And I'm just, you never know where he's going to play because he plays like Richie Hayward. Nobody plays that way. I don't think I touched my snare drum once the whole song just because I needed to stay the hell out of his way because he's not going to play on 2 and 4. He's going to play everywhere but 2 and 4 and be Richie. The fact that I got to do that is so, I can cuss, right? We're a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that I got to do that is so fucking cool, So having these different, playing airplane tunes with Yorma and Jack sitting in with our band,
wow.
It doesn't get any better than that,
No, I mean, you're getting those life experiences where you're going to look back on your career and just go, holy shit, I did all that. I got to do that,
In fact, I was talking about Richie and don't even realize it. I've got a picture of me and Richie right there on the wall.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's cool.
And then a picture with me and Bill Kreutzmann. And then a picture with me and Levon Helm. I mean, these are the guys I grew up just going, listening to them, wearing out the cassettes, wearing out vinyl even. Maybe even an 8-track here and there. And, now their numbers are in my phone, the ones who are still alive. It's unfortunate. But, and now it's just, those kind of things are the highlights for me personally. Musically, the first time we played Red Rocks, it was finally here, we're at Red Rocks. Going to Japan and playing the Fuji Rock Festival, things like that are highlights.
And Japan is amazing, just getting to go there, just alone.
We were there for 5 days. We played one show, so we had enough time to get a little taste,
Outside of the jet lag, everything's great.
And
yeah.
We were there for 5 days. I don't think I slept for 16 hours the whole time we were there, it was a mess. But playing the show in front of, there were some Americans there, but it's Japanese music fans, and it's up at Fuji Rock, on Mount Fuji, big festival, and I couldn't believe it. There's Japanese people. I don't even know if they speak English, but they knew every fucking word to that Grateful Dead song standing on the rail.
They appreciate appreciate music,
and that's the amazing thing about that.
Board. They love it. It's such a part of their life, which is a blessing, which is a beautiful blessing to go there and play music. I've been there several times, and it's the crowds are always just, they give you so much energy, which is a blessing. Yeah. So much. We had a night off, and we went to this place in Tokyo called Abbey Road to see a Japanese Beatles tribute. And these cats, they were dressed and everything, and they don't speak English, but they're singing in English, obviously. But I mean, they crushed it. They were amazing. Harmonies were spot on. The instrumentation, a keyboard player covering a lot of the ancillary sounds outside of bass and guitar. They absolutely crushed it. When the people in the bar found out we were in town to go play Fuji Rock, moved us to the front row, free drinks, will you sign the wall? Instant celebrity, which we're not. They don't know us from Adam, but we were there to play Fuji Rock. So we must be somebody in their mind. I signed the wall next to Sting. Okay.
Good thing Sting wasn't there to say, hey, could you move down a little? But, with this long career that you've had with the band, what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated to keep going and playing with the band? I still love to travel, even though it's harder. I still love to travel. I still love the music. And I still love the fact that I get to create, not just regurgitate, but I get to create every night with really good musicians, there's certain songs, if I never played them again, that would be okay. There's certain songs I could play every night, and we don't. But I still get to go on stage
and play songs I love and express myself artistically and make people happy and make a living. So
the love of the band.
Yeah,
you said it right there. And what keeps you going?
That's it.
I always wanted to be on a tour bus. Traveling from city to city playing music. I've been doing it for that long. I mean, that's all I thought about, is this is what I want to do.
Yeah, brother.
And I didn't know I was going to do it playing Grateful Dead music. I thought I'd be doing it playing original music with a band and being huge. And, even if that had happened, it wouldn't have lasted 26 years. Unless you're Chicago or somebody like that, right?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like the length of the band and how long it's been together, and the fact that you're still playing the rooms that you're playing, you don't need to say anymore. And that's definitely, and your love for the band, that's definitely answered that. That's what keeps it going. I have, for musicians, I'm sure this podcast will appeal to not only fans but musicians, but there's also the musicians that are going to watch and say, all right, what can I take away? What advice would you give to me when starting a tribute band? Is there any advice you would give a young musician or maybe middle-aged musician or whatever?
That's a great question. And I've never been asked that question. That's a really good one. I guess, like with anything, the absolute first thing I would say is make sure you're having fun. That's number one. Don't worry about the way you're interpreting the music, or if you're interpreting it as authentically as this other group, or whatever the twist is. Just enjoy what you're doing, because if you don't, it's not going to work.
It's going to be displayed.
Yeah, if you're worried about making it work, it's not going to. You got to let it happen. And if you're playing really well and you're doing it right and the crowds are coming to see you, it will happen. But play the music because it's fun and you love the music.
It's that simple.
Great
it
answer.
really is
Love
that
it.
simple. And if you're not enjoying yourself, people are going to see it on your face. And then they're not going to be happy because they spend money. They want to see you making them happy. That's because you're playing the song.
That's one of the things I hear, at the Jubilee at our festival a couple weeks ago. I was out in a golf cart driving around, and people wave and whatnot. And I had one person who said to me, "You always look like you're having so much fun up there." Good, whew, because I am, and they notice it. And that energy, like you were just saying, right? That energy goes both ways. It's not just a band playing for an audience and not just an audience watching a band, especially with tribute music, because everybody in that audience is there because they know that music so well and they want to hear it. So It's not a band and it's not an audience. It's shouldn't be. It should be one organism working together at that point,
No, that's a great answer, and that's so true. So tell everybody, and Ray, once again, this flew by. Like we've been saying, it's like,
oh wow, we're ready. Yeah, we're coming to an end right here.
Amazing guests. It's crazy. I want to tell people where they can find the band. I will list it into the description. People can find out. But where's the best place they can look stuff up?
www.darkstarorchestra.net for people that still use websites. Because I understand some people don't anymore. That's still my go-to. And, and we're on Facebook and Instagram and all that other stuff, too. I don't think we do Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. Our Facebook presence is probably the biggest because we're an older crowd, primarily. Although it's getting younger. Thank you, John Mayer. He's really helped with that. He's bringing the younger kids in to learn in the Dead. So Dead and Company has definitely helped our cause just by bringing in a new generation of fans.
No, and it's funny, the crossover generation that I'm sure you see out there, you see young and old, It's not just...
Yeah, we're skewing younger now, though. I mean, finally, which is a good thing as our crowd ages. Don't want to say ages out, but, the fact that all these younger people are listening to the Dead now because John Mayer's in Dead and Company and they were all John Mayer fans. There's a whole bunch of new people being turned on to the music, and I definitely see that in the crowd, 100%. So we're out there on all that stuff to get back to, sorry to go off on a tangent.
No. And I'll list it all in the description. People will be able to find it. And this has been great. I thought it was just super fascinating to me because, I know how big the band is, your band is, and how well known it is. I've tons of friends that are into the Grateful Dead, and they know your band. They'll say when you're coming to town and go to see you.
That's awesome.
They tell me, and I have friends that have followed you to different shows, where if you're playing around, you do a Philly hit or New York hit or New Jersey or wherever you might be, they'll go see you at all those shows. So it is true that people do follow you.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the Northeast. The Northeast, all the towns are close enough together, 2-3 hour drives. We get a lot of people who travel on the Northeast for sure. Well, thanks to both of you. I've really enjoyed this. I haven't gotten to be on this side very much, so it's kind of nice.
And hopefully we'll have you back again.
I would love to.
Sometime soon to do a total catch-up.
Thanks for listening to Tribute Band Sessions podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment. Want more info? Sign up to our mailing list at tributebandsessions.com. It's the best way to stay in the loop on upcoming episodes, special guests, and behind-the-scenes stories, and all things tribute bands. And don't forget to follow us on all our socials at Tribute Band Sessions. Thanks for watching.